Chapter 19. The Codes.
After Fora had left for work, Zentran took his air car and set it down on the air car pad next to the storm water drain they'd used so often in their youth. Unobserved, he climbed into its opening and made his way to the other side of the hill. In his stone house, he considered the events and the significance of DEL 374TA. He had hoped to find Nakas, who he felt sure would know, but his beingness, as on most occasions, was not present. Perhaps Nakas would help them in their quest. He wondered if Nakas knew about the fight they had in store for them. Surely he did. Nakas seemed to know everything. At her communication switchboard, Fora watched familiar signals appearing on the monitor. Through experience, she knew which of these were high-priority messages. Routing them had become so routine that the function was automatic. Although she knew how to route them, their final destination was unknown. So little was known about what the communications represented. To know would surely tell an interesting story. Zentran's memory crystal recording everything in her bottom cupboard could reveal what they were about. There was considerable communications traffic that sequence, more than she could ever remember. It certainly had to do with their escapade at the Morning Sun Club and the subsequent events in the aircar pad. She wondered how much they knew about her. Did they know she'd once been a council member? Did they have any idea of the extent of her abilities, the full potential of which even she wasn't aware? Had she really been given her position because of distinctions acquired in computer science and communications technology? Her parents, who'd been council servants, had definitely played a part in her successful application. Her office was tastefully decorated. The high technology equipment was subtly designed and inset into furniture. She tried not to think about the memory device in her bottom cupboard, with its sensors clipped onto the communications cables. She thought instead about her beautiful but synthetic exotic plant, which stood next to the cupboard in which the memory crystal now captured data. The plant stood the height of the ceiling and fluttered in the soft cool breeze of a concealed air conditioner. She was a little on edge. Anyone watching may have noticed her twitch ever so slightly as someone entered the office. It was her immediate superior. She relaxed. He was quite harmless, as it was plain to see he'd been deprogrammed to the point of stupidity. But if one took the trouble to look through the blank mask that blocked his awareness, an intelligent and amiable person had once laid within.
Would you like me to stand in for you for a while? You could go to the canteen for a break and get some refreshment.
She thought about the memory crystal in her bottom cupboard, recording confidential and prohibited council communication. There was no doubt that should he come across it, he'd not be able to prevent himself from drawing a council security agent's attention to it.
That's a nice offer, sir, but the communication lines are extremely busy this sequence. You have to see it to believe it. If I may, I'll call you when they calm down to a normal level.
He shuffled over to Fora's monitor and peered at the signals. He had also never seen the likes of the communications flow. Not quite believing what he'd just witnessed, he shuffled out of the office. She smiled affectionately after him as she busied herself at the keyboard. His next port of call would be the girls on the floor above. They sat in small, dingy offices, at communication switchboards similar to hers. Specific data traffic requiring access codes denied to Fora were routed through them. Safeguarding the codes and their significance required deprogrammed staff. Fora was the outside world's first contact to the Council. Being alert and attractive served their public relations image. The threat of her being found out was minimal, as long as she continued to appear what she was expected to be, a conscientious and efficient council supporter. Her superior would eventually become curious as to why she didn't take him up on his offer. Opening her bottom cupboard, she disconnected the memory device. With the increased data traffic, it would already contain a considerable amount. She put it into her shoulder sling bag, hanging up on the coat stand with her grey uniform overcoat. The girls upstairs probably still occupied her senior's interest. Fora routed a message to their screens for him. Shortly, his vacant smile greeted her at the door.
Thanks, sir. I won't be too long.
Putting on her bag over her shoulder, she strode out of the office, giving him a wave and a smile. In the canteen, she selected refreshments from the dispenser and seated herself at a table next to a window. The city looked magnificent, with its array of modern buildings and interlinking walkways set at various levels. Air cars sped by above and beneath the skywalks. She looked beyond the city at the expansive desert as it entered the dark zone. It was a sharp contrast to the planned order of the city. Zentran stood unseen behind her eyes, close to the desert stream, and peered across the expanse of dimly lit sand towards the city. He sensed Fora's perception of the area where he stood. He considered, as he had done so many times before, walking across the expansive desert in front of him freely, without any concern of reproach. Although the act in itself was a simple one, its achievement would signify a great deal more. It would indicate that he, Fora, Zach, and possibly others had made a difference. They would have won their liberty. The crossing would serve as a walk of honor. Zentran opened Fora's apartment door for her as she approached, without making any physical contact with it. She smiled as it closed behind her again. No words were necessary as she produced the memory device. He accepted it like a child receiving a cherished toy. Disconnecting the council's entertainment channel from the viewing monitor took no time at all. Just as quickly, he connected the memory device. A quick appraisal of the data satisfied him that the kind of information they were looking for was there. He disconnected the device and reconnected the council's incoming line. The program he'd devised on his freighter's computer would do a quick and thorough job. Zentran's intrigue gave way to a mischievous smile.
What's for dinner, lovely Fora?
Well, seeing that you've been here for most of the sequence, why don't you tell me?
I was thinking we could have the same as we had at the end of last sequence.
That would be fine, only we didn't eat anything at the end of last sequence.
Eat? Who said anything about eating?
Fora laughed.
Yes, that would be nice.
Zentran sat in front of his space freighter's computer as it grouped the memory crystal's data into the priorities he'd specified.
Let's have all your dark secrets,
he thought to himself. Zentran lost track of time. He waded through reams of communication with the enthusiasm of a child putting together his first anti-gravity kit. His eyes fell on a communication regarding the events in the Morning Sun Club. Similar codes to the one they were interested in were all over the place.
We found your hiding place.
Following the codes were instructions. He traced them back to the events inside the club, culminating with those in the aircar pad. The significance of the codes revealed itself. They were the identification references for lookalikes. Messages to and from lookalike microprocessors were fascinating. Pausing for a while, he wondered who or what was analyzing data and relaying instructions. What was the significance of the code Zack had picked up? DEL374TA. One would have to get into their individual files to find out. Perhaps this was irrelevant now. Two codes recurred continually, interchanging data. One appeared to be in the morning zone. The most prominent was situated in the Alpha 1 building, where Fora worked. It seemed the council was using machines to control machines. Their alpha numerical sequence seemed to indicate they were early models, probably purely electronic, hardwired into control panels. There was nothing more he could derive from the data. He'd have to get into the system directly. No access code to enter the system had presented itself. It seemed that one wasn't required if the correct entry sequence was followed.